So the crypto market is starting to wake up yet again, and that means that a lot of these altcoins, like for an example, Hedera, are starting to also wake back up. We now reclaimed 20 plus cents on HBAR, which is very good to see, especially after having such a massive downtrend happen, and we did hit the lows around like roughly 12.5 cents, and now we're back over 20 plus cents again. Now, the good thing about HBAR this time around compared to 2020 into 2021, for those that were not there during that time, back in 2020 into 2021, we had a big issue happen, which was the fact that the supply release of HBAR got accelerated in a big way. Today, the overall supply of HBAR out there is 42.23 billion, which is over, and if we look here, 84+% of the supply released. This time around, we do not have to be concerned or worried about the supply, having this massive release completely killing momentum around price action. Now, I say that because I do think that this is going to be a massive run for HBAR. I think that this alt season is going to be very big for a lot of these great utility-based projects that have been putting in the work and the time to really kind of build something special. And we're going to be talking about that in this video on just how bullish Hedera actually is and why I do believe that Millionaires will be created this season from HBAR. So let's dive on into a few updates. Number one, we did get a big update that Hedera's CPO, their Chief Policy Officer, has joined the Milken Institute's FinTech Advisory Council. Her deep expertise and passion for innovation will contribute meaningfully to shaping the future of fintech alongside key public and private sector stakeholders. Now, what's interesting about this, is that the strategic partners of the Milken Institute, look at this. You have Citi on here, major banks, major Fortune 500 companies as well, just massive names like JP Morgan Chase and Franklin Templeton. I mean, guys, this is a stacked company, all right? And the fact that we now have Hedera tapped in here, it's a very, very big deal because, again, it's all about networking. And also, what's interesting about this is look at the overall mission here. This institute has been dedicated to connecting people, organizations, and resources to catalyze solutions to persistent global challenges. When we think about this, all of the names tied to this institute, and now with Hedera added, you could have a lot of networking, connectivity happening, even discussions, planning to tap into new solutions. A lot of these companies on this list are not blockchain based, they're not crypto based. A lot of them are TradFi giants, enterprise giants, and this gets me thinking. If we're going to really kind of target a lot of the, challenges in the world right now, a lot of them pertain back to very inefficient tech. Having something like Hedera tapped in around some of these markets and around some of these names could immediately solve a lot of those challenges. So the fact that we now have Hedera tapped in with another name like, for an example, Milken Institute, just shows us how connected and how high on the list Hedera actually is in terms of their reputation and the integrity of Hedera as a whole. So love to see that. I think that that's very bullish. Now, on top of that, let's go over here to this post as well. So the main thing that I really want to talk about in this video is tokenization, because I know that we've been talking about tokenization for quite some time, but now let's just be honest here. It's probably one of the biggest narratives floating around this space, especially as we do start to see players like, BlackRock, Franklin Templeton, Fidelity. They're all talking about it now. Robinhood is talking about it, and even Wall Street. Wall Street themselves are getting prepared to go all in on tokenization. We know this from the SEC roundtable on tokenization. So the fact that we, see Hedera behind this in a big way, and by the way, Hedera was like one of the first players to really kind of start to tokenize in a big way. It just shows us how ahead of the game Hedera actually was. Now, if we look here, we have live at Saul Gregory L. Bell explains to a packed audience why institutions are choosing Hedera to accelerate RWAs. Now, really kind of going into this in a big way, think about how many moves Hedera has made. I'm not just talking about the last year. I'm talking about all the moves that Hedera has made over the last couple years. We could go back all the way to 2021 as well, because Hedera back in 2021 was planting seeds around tokenization. That's when we first started to hear about Red Swan. That's when we first started to hear about a few companies actually building on Hedera around tokenization initiatives. But if we go back to just 2023, that's when we saw Aberdeen tokenize their money market fund on Hedera with Archix. This was a big deal. But quickly followed up to that, we did see in August of 2024, the HBAR Foundation and Copper partnered to further Hedera's institutional accessibility. Now, this is where we started to see the big picture form, because it wasn't just about accessibility. Let's just be honest here. When we think about some of these integrations and these partnerships, they're actually really connecting and networking to make sure that Hedera is ready for the institutional wave. This is one of many moves that Hedera actually made to make sure that institutional grade adoption of Hedera is enabled. Now, if we go over here as well, just 1 month later, Hedera did launch the Asset Tokenization Studio. This is all about tokenizing with a compliant studio. And even within this, okay, they did mention tokenized bonds and equities on the network. That's what this was enabling initially, but for the most part, this will enable everything. Now, it was also built with the Hedera Foundation, Hashgraph, Red Swan, which has been tokenizing on Hedera actively around commercial real estate, and IO builders. But this is all fully focused on institutions. And then we got just, 1 month later, the Nairobi Securities Exchange joins Hedera Council to expedite tokenization of securities in Kenya's capital markets. This is right after the Tokenization Studio did launch. This is right after the Copper integration as well. And then, of course, next month, crypto exchange Archix to offer tokenized money market funds from State Street, Fidelity International, and LGIM. Now, this was with Hedera, the XRP Ledger, and Arbitrum. More moves happening around Hedera around tokenization. And again, this is just over the last, few months if you think about it. But then January came, and we got the announcement that Voltic and World Gemological Institute were going to tokenize $3 billion in diamonds and gemstones on the Hedera network. Now, we don't know when this is officially going to happen. We don't know if this already did start to happen, but we know that this was announced back in January. And then we also saw 5 days later that Hashgraph Association partnered up with Taurus for global HBAR custody push. Again, this is all based around custody, staking, and tokenizing of not only HBAR cryptocurrency, but also to empower institutional capabilities of the Hedera network. And then we also saw back in the beginning of April, HashSpear, the new private blockchain launched by Hashgraph for tokenized finance. Now you might say, well, Nick, this is all private, so it doesn't matter for HBAR. When we think about this, they already have connectivity with HBAR and the public chain as well. So they will enable the public side as well within the private blockchain side. Again, everyone has always been concerned about these private blockchains. We have heard from many prominent institutional players that the private chain side is still a walled garden. You still need the public side of the network. So this is still just one additional step to enable that tokenized, financial future. But I bring all this up because we now have, Hedera talking about, tokenized property and how it should be able to raise capital, earn rent, pay invoices, and even let owners vote. This is all based around tokenizing real estate at a time where we know that real estate tokenization has always been a big, focus around Hedera. That's why Red Swan was originally brought on. Now, even just over the last, week or so, we've been noticing some big updates from Hedera, which was even the Tokeny solutions, right? This was another big player to actually integrate with Hedera to scale institutional asset tokenization on the network. Now, they didn't give us an insight on exactly what they're focused on around what they're tokenizing. And the announcement has now moved over to their new website. But for the most part, we do know that this is just to scale institutional asset tokenization on the network, which could involve, of course, real estate, which I wouldn't be surprised if it did involve much more than real estate as well. But outside of this, the reason why I bring up all of this is because of what Red Swan also announced, which was the Altus Opportunity Fund. This is tokenized by Red Swan. This is minted on Hedera. From traditional real estate to digital real estate, express interest in the Altus Opportunity Fund at redswan.io. And if we actually look into this, okay, we know Red Swan has been a leader around real estate tokenization. They have so many funds already on their platform. And remember, most of this is all tokenized on Hedera. You got to remember that Red Swan has created their real estate asset tokenization platform on Hedera. It's all integrated with Hedera. And we even have down here, Red Swan CRE is a premier marketplace for tokenized commercial real estate, fully adhering to US securities regulations with over $10 billion in deals hosted. Our platform offers a secure, straightforward, and transparent way to invest in real estate. And yeah, I mean, listen, this has been one of the biggest players around the Hedera, ecosystem when it comes to tokenization for quite some time, which I've always put a spotlight on. But it's not just Hedera that they're partnered up with. We also know that they're partnered up with some additional big players from the space like Stellar and even Coinbase. But of course, they also have Franklin Templeton tapped in as well. And you could even say, well, Franklin Templeton has been tokenizing on Stellar, and they definitely have. But we also know that they're tied back to Red Swan, which is also tokenizing in a big way on Hedera. When we think about all of this, right, it's very clear that Hedera has been putting in the work for a very long time. All of this stuff is seeds planted to make sure that Hedera is one of the largest players around the tokenization revolution. And by the way, tokenization is only going to continue to heat up. We have over here that breaking tokenized RWAs are projected to hit $50 billion by the end of 2025, led by US Treasuries. Key Rock and Centrifuge call it the Great Tokenization Shift. ETFs opened TradFi in 2009. RWAs are doing it on chain in 2025. And yeah, listen, we've been hearing from a lot of these big players around these projections of where RWAs are going. We've been hearing about 19 trillion, 16 trillion, and I'm talking about by 2030, not by the end of 2025. I do think that it accelerates in a big way. I think everything is starting to change. And even talking about that, right? Going back to May 4th, we did get an update from Cointelegraph, which was everything is lining up. Tokenization is having its breakout moment. Tokenization is gaining real traction as BlackRock, Libre, and Multibank make billion-dollar moves, signaling the shift from theory to execution. And yeah, listen, this is only going to scale more and more and more. And if we look at some of the deals being made here, like Multibank Group just signed a $3 billion tokenization agreement with the UAE real estate giant MAG and blockchain provider Maverick. This is one of the largest RWA tokenization initiatives that this space has, recorded so far. And what's crazy about this is these are the types of moves that not just make a lot of noise, they also accelerate the shift towards tokenization initiatives. But on top of that, we have down here, and this is the CEO of Hashgraph actually, the recent surge isn't arbitrary. It's happening because everything's lining up. Rules are getting clearer in major markets, the tech is stronger, faster, and ready to scale, and big players are actually doing it. BlackRock is tokenizing funds, Citi is exploring digital asset custody, and Franklin Templeton has tokenized money market funds on public blockchains. And yeah, it's no longer a theory. It's no longer just, some hype narrative. This is happening now. We already have $20+ billion on chain. And the next 20 billion will happen in a much faster way. And the second that we hit $1 trillion, guess what? this is going to be everywhere, and it's going to be too late for the retail market to get, you know, some of these altcoins and some of these projects on the low, which is why I keep saying focus on the big picture here. This is going to change everything. It's going to change real estate. It's going to change stocks. It's going to change bonds. It's going to change every single thing about finance and how we go about things. Even, you know, trade finance is changing into tokenization as well. So, you know, this is going to change the way that the world moves and works and operates. And at the same exact time, it's going to make a lot of these networks extremely valuable, including, of course, Hedera. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.